So it's finally here, guys! Paradox has sponsored me to return to my roots with a Victoria 3 video about Sphere of Influence. If you haven't been paying attention to Vic 3 for a while, I don't blame you, but they're adding some decent stuff here. So now we can make foreign investments to take advantage of the resources other nations won't. Also, customs unions are overhauled into power blocks with many unique traits depending on the vibe you want to go with. So with an expansion focusing on new ways to dominate your opponents, I decided to play as one of the experts. Prussia already starts in their own power block called Zollverein. This is a trade league power block, so it's all about everyone trying to make money by working together, and as long as everyone is chill in the power block, you maintain a high cohesion, which you need to generate mandates that give the power block even more bonuses. Another new feature is political lobbies, so now your interest groups aren't limited to complaining about your domestic policy, they're going to complain about your foreign policy too. Foreign investment is a very important part of the game. If you want to get a nation in your power block like Prussia needs to do with these German princes, then you need to ask to build in their country and construct some profitable industry to make them reliant on it. Early on, the Junkers really twist my arm into restricting women's property rights, so although a lot of farmers are yapping about homesteading, I gotta listen to the people paying my bills. The farmers were not happy to see my priorities. They started organizing their forces to take over the government, but fortunately for me, they lacked the drive to actually pull the trigger on it. Still didn't mean it was nothing to worry about because I keep getting events about violence around the country. I couldn't make any geopolitical moves because of this, so when the Oriental crisis popped off, I just had to stand back and watch France do their thing, who finally made their own power block despite being in a civil war, but it was only them and Tahiti? To form North German Confederation, I gotta liberate Schleswig-Holstein from Danish tyranny. So when the farmers calmed down, I started the Diplo play against Denmark, and for some reason, Oyo is like, isn't there someone you forgot to ask? All the way from West Africa. I was not able to just walk over to Denmark. I had to do a naval invasion. But I didn't take the invasion penalties seriously. This led to my guys landing with one attack, and those soldiers did not have a good time. Fortunately, I am capable of learning from my failures, so I built up the fleet and split my army, making the landing significantly easier. But for some reason, despite naval invading from the east, my troops had to sail around the Danish peninsula to the west. I don't know what is going on here, but it cost me the landing, so I have to do a third naval invasion. I landed in another state, and this one worked fine, so my troops were able to walk over the Danes until they finally gave me what I wanted. I wasn't doing good economically after that war, so I wanted to pass the laissez-faire economic law, which made the farmers very mad, radicalizing their movement for a national militia into a proper civil war. I knew the drill for this. I was just gonna wait them out until they got bored. But it's good to see that this political instability is not scaring people away. Although that says a lot about Bosnia, that the people would rather leave there to live in a country nearing bankruptcy and civil war. But since the farmers continue to be a problem, I'm also gonna pick up secret police so I can start shutting people up. Now, you may have noticed the date and be wondering why I haven't even tried to go for Austria yet, and that's because there's this issue where every time I try to fight them for leadership, Russia is like, isn't there someone you forgot to ask? Finally, in 1862, when nobody wanted to back the Austrians up, I saw my chance. I wanted a bit more from the Austrians. They were gonna spit out Bohemia along with handing over Krakow and West Galicia to me. The only backup they had was two Sicilies, but they weren't exactly packing hard-hitting troops. When the fighting started, our boys were moonwalking over the Austrian army. I'm really thankful the war is going this well because I took a huge gamble doing this. The budget is not looking good right now, and all I can do is delay the eventual default. And when that default arrives, at that point I'd done so much damage to the Austrian army, they couldn't turn it around, which I'm thankful for because I'm not feeding my soldiers anymore. They're on their own. The rich want to start a revolution to allow them to vote, and I just give in because I can't risk anything getting in my way. In June 1864, the Austrians were finally ready to tap out and give me everything I was asking for. I finally became the North German Federation and began my economic recovery. But these farmers are being a constant pain for me because they are agitators. When they threaten another civil war, I say enough is enough. I gotta take care of this guy. With everything stabilized, it was time to get Alsace-Lorraine. I was expecting the French to put up a fight, but instead they just exploded in front of me. Now, I wanted to rescue Alsace-Lorraine from French incompetence, but Vicky 3 won't let me do that. And I'm not gonna eat 35 infamy for nothing, so I ran back the save and let the French go through their upteenth civil war before doing the Diplo play again. Sweden joined against me for this, which surprised me because I had invested a lot into them to join my power block, so this felt like a betrayal. At least it didn't have an effect on how this war was gonna go. The French military couldn't match me on land or on the seas. It took some time, but we slowly pushed the French out of Alsace. But now, since the farmers have been declawed, the trade unions are taking over for most annoying faction, organizing for unemployment benefits, which I really don't want to pay for when I'm in the middle of an important war. Once we push past Alsace, the French are ready to tap out, and I can start the final unification play for Germany. It's only Bohemia and Bavaria against me for this one, but I'm just wondering what they think they're gonna do here. I know this war is gonna be easy for me, so I decided it was a good time to give the revolution what they wanted, so they shut up. After wasting everybody's time for a few months, I annexed Bohemia and Bavaria, allowing me to finally form Germany. But Germany wasn't fully unified yet. There was still Luxembourg right there, which the Dutch didn't want me to touch, so they joined against me. This got really ridiculous when Russia joined to stop me. Without even being promised anything by the Dutch, they just joined to hate on me. I wasn't gonna stand for that, so I added some punishing war goals for Russia. They were gonna spit out Poland and hand over their Baltic puppet to me. Since I was a united Germany, Russia didn't have the numbers anymore to overwhelm my troops with their inferior technology, allowing me to easily push where I wanted to. Although they were somehow able to fight a long time in Luxembourg, I don't know how they were able to do it with 6 battles. The Luxembourg campaign turned into a Battle of Fallujah. All they could do was delay me, never defeat, and I got everything I wanted. There was gonna be some cursed borders in the Baltics for a while, but I was gonna fix that eventually. I forgot to mention there are a lot of customization options for your power block, and with time you could probably create a much better looking design than mine, but I think mine at least gets the message forward. Since we're the European Union now, we have to have freedom of movement with our borders, and I finally got Sweden into the bloc. I also bought the Suez off of Egypt since nobody else had done it for some reason. After Luxembourg, I didn't want to conquer any more territory since I'm already such a big Germany. That doesn't mean no more war, of course. We can't be Germany without some war. But those wars are going to be wars of liberation, where we can pick up new nations to add to our power block. With our truce up with Austria, it's time to go in again to make them spit out Hungary. Russia, obviously holding a grudge for the last war, comes in against me, but that just works in my favor since I can fix the Baltic borders now. They may be able to mobilize more brigades than me, but one German battalion is worth 3 of theirs, so I'm confident in how the war will go. I was completely right. The war goes pretty smoothly. Hungary is free, splitting up the Austrian Empire, but some Hungarians don't even give their new state a chance. They just bail for Germany. Like, Hungary can't be that bad, guys. I immediately start working on influencing Hungary while I'm waiting for Russia to surrender. When they finally do, the eastern borders are looking clean. Well, Poland could look better, but whatever. They were taking too long to join the EU, so I wanted to speed it up for them, but a lot of people seem to have a problem with that. France I get, but Austria? They must really hate me to join this play, cause they don't even control most of their country. My infamy was so high, I couldn't even get land off of those two. All I did was run down Poland and hold my ground against France until Poland threw in the towel. I'm sure the Poles enjoyed their brief bit of independence, but they should have known this was coming. It's for the best anyways. Look at Krakow, a one-state nation, but since they've been a part of the EU so long and enjoying our investments, they have 5 times the GDP of the rest of Poland. As for the Baltic state, well, there's a skill issue going on there. Literally. Baltics are having a brain drain problem. All the capable people are moving to Germany for a better life, so the country can't develop. I think that's because of a bug in my version of the game where the migration bonus from free movement stacks with every state, so all of Germany has some super inflated migration attraction. This is supposed to be fixed on release though, so you guys won't be able to enjoy the greatness of every European culture wanting to move to Germany. This led to some really funny demographics in places though, like the Suez Canal is being staffed by Icelanders and Belarusians. To help out Poland, I gave them Krakow by annexing the city to transfer the state later, but before I can transfer the state, I noticed that Hungary is in a civil war, and in their desperation to win, is willing to become my protectorate. I don't even take infamy for this for some reason, so I just fast-tracked Hungary into the EU. I fought a trivial war for them and basically saved myself another year or two trying to get the leverage in their country. I mean, is it really imperialism if I'm making the countries better off? Hungary is saved and Poland is stronger, united with Krakow. I guess the Baltic states don't like me, but I just don't understand why. It was time for the Austrians and Russians to spit out more land again, and while they would try to fight back, I couldn't take them seriously anymore. The Austrians were going to hand over Romania and Moldavia while spitting out Croatia. The Russians were going to have to say goodbye to Ukraine and Belarus. There was still work to be done with East Galicia and Bessarabia, but now I had 4 new countries to start investing into. The EU needed to keep growing, so with Romania as my puppet, I could use them as a border to move my investors into Belgrade. We were moving fast in the Balkans. Greece and later Croatia would join the EU. Hungary unfortunately had another civil war, and while this should have been no problem for us, there's always a hater. Egypt must have felt so brave intervening in this war. The Baltics must have felt real good mouthing off against me earlier, but now that they're in a civil war, who do they come running to? With our subjects stabilized, it was time to go after Russia again to get Bessarabia for Romania and liberate Finland. It was pretty crazy to see the amount of protectorates Russia had in the Americas. I guess the US just doesn't care about the Monroe Doctrine in this timeline. One thing I wish the devs would add is a way to declare for your subjects' homelands. I want to give Romania Bessarabia, but to do this I have to eat a huge amount of infamy to conquer it myself and transfer it later, when it should be a reduced amount since I want to give Romania land that they have a legitimate claim to. So it cost me over 40 infamy to give Romanian land to Romania, which I'm just not accepting. I lowered my infamy in the save game because I want to be able to have fun. While the war is preparing, my capitalists are in a fight for their lives in Belgium. They've industrialized so much, it's hard to get enough control of their industry to bring them into the EU. Now it's finally time to take care of that Austrian island in Eastern Europe and give it to Poland. I don't even understand why they're fighting for this state. They're just gonna end up like this, for a state with no market access. I floated the idea that maybe we don't need a monarchy in Germany, and it was made very clear to me that that was not gonna change. If I threaten the Kaiser again...
Activation word, Ronald McDonald, public highway, congressman, pipe bomb, airport.
The Dutch started going through a civil war, so you know what I had to do. Unfortunately, the Scandinavians got involved with the other side of the Civil War, but that's not bad for me, that's bad for them. I'm gonna make the Netherlands my protectorate for no infamy. But this makes me think that if you want to expand in Europe, a good strat might be to sponsor agitators in countries so they cause a civil war, and you can subjugate whichever side you want to get that nation for no infamy. I won the war, of course, but unfortunately when I protectorate the Dutch, they lost the East Indies, so I couldn't get everything I wanted. I do get a stronger EU though, with Netherlands and Belarus in the power block, plus Poland is looking a lot better with East Galicia. I checked on the Suez, and we've just completely colonized this place. Well, I say we, but it's really the Icelanders and Belarusians. I don't get what's going on with the Icelanders. There are more Danes in Iceland than Icelanders because half the Icelandic population decides to live in Egypt. With Eastern Europe cleaned up, it was time to turn the EU's attention to the Balkans. I wanted the Turks out of here, but certain people didn't feel like helping. Just because Greece was in a horrible state was not an excuse for them to not join this war, and I wasn't taking no for an answer. The plan was to liberate Albania and Bosnia and also return land to Serbia and Greece. The war barely started and Greece was already in default. I had to take a look at what was going on, and yeah, I think I'm seeing the problem here. Joining the EU may have not been the best move for Greece, but it's definitely helping me. Despite us obviously winning, Greece pieces out, which is really annoying since I have their land selected for war goals. But the game is looking out for me because Greece has a civil war, so you know what I had to do. I didn't even have to send troops, the Greek government just backed down and I got myself a new protectorate. My new order is set up in the Balkans and Greece got some much needed pops. Later, I couldn't help but notice Portugal was going through some problems. Problems I had a solution for. You'd think the British military would be a problem for me, but it really wasn't. They don't combine their fleets, so my 60-ship navy can just moonwalk all over the Atlantic, allowing me to supply my army in Portugal, helping the rebels take control of the country. The British and I keep trying to naval invade each other, but we're not getting anywhere. For some reason, after we push the British out of Portugal, the game still counts the rebels as being occupied, so they take a lot of war exhaustion penalties. I'm just thankful that I didn't make them my subjects, so they can't peace out without me, or else I'd be really upset right now. But that goes the same for Britain's Portugal, so we're in this awkward position of just staring at each other until the UK can't be bothered. Soon the Baltic states came to me and were like, if you're bored, we have another civil war for you to take care of. And I'm pretty much done with this country. They clearly can't run this area, so I'm just gonna have to step in. At least we can get some people coming back here. At this point, I feel like I've done enough for this campaign. I think I did alright for my first Prussia game. I know I limited myself hard by not going for Super Germany when it was right there for me to take, but I wanted to play around with foreign investment more. The EU is the best power block by a long shot, and Germany is just the best place to live in the world. Not only do I have the highest standard of living, but the next 4 on the list are all EU members. Sphere of Influence definitely makes the Diplo game more interesting, so thank you Paradox for this early preview, and if this video made you want to pick up the expansion, make sure to do it through my link down below to make me look good to Paradox. Also, thank you to my alumni on Patreon funding my New World Order ambitions. You guys mean a lot to me too. Anyways, make sure to like the video or else Klaus Schwab will feed you bugs while you sleep, and subscribe so you can catch my next video. Hope to see y'all again soon.